Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. This is DJ and I'll be your host for this week. I'm joined by Varun and it is the IPL opening weekend. IPL 22 has kicked off. We've had 2 games completed. We're on our 3rd game at the moment. RCB is playing the Punjab Kings. It's all happening. Varun, welcome to the show. Where is your brother?
I don't know where he is, but I noticed you said IPL 2022. Did you mean IPL 2012? Because so far we've seen a Dhoni 50, Rahane opening the batting, Uthappa at 3, and Umesh Yadav in the playing 11 opening the bowling. So is it 2022 or is it 2012? It just feels like a throwback.
It could well be, right? You've got the same format as a decade ago. You've got the same players as a decade ago. You've got pretty much a similar result as a decade ago when the Delhi Capitals used to win everything and the Mumbai Indians didn't win anything. But we will, of course, come to that. But Varun, you haven't answered the main question. Where is your brother this week?
He's in
you guys you've got some defense mechanism going on. He defends you when you're not on the show, and you defend him when he's not on the show, is it?
Maybe we just have a pact that only one of us will join with DJ every week. But no, that's not true. You missed one as well.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe you have to take turns dealing with me. But guys, that apart, we've got a great show lined up for you. The IPL has obviously kicked out. The Indian women have gone out of the unfortunately gone out of Cricket World Cup 2022 in an exciting, slightly frustrating game as well. So we'll talk about that as well. There's been some test match action with England playing the West Indies. There's been Pakistan losing a test series to Australia. So there's been quite a lot of cricket, but we are an Indian cricket podcast that focuses on Indian cricket and the IPL. So without much further ado, let's get straight to it. Let's get into the Indian women first, Varun, because I think this is a fair comment that it's been a pretty disappointing campaign for our ladies. We only beat Pakistan and Bangladesh, that were the weaker teams that everyone expected us to beat, and we got one past the West Indies. We lost to all the other big teams, including what today was a pretty close and heartbreaking loss. So should we just talk through what happened today against the South Africans?
Yeah, absolutely. And DJ, jump in because you're obviously more familiar with some of these games. But I think generally, yeah, it's been tough, right? I was sitting and thinking today that the last 2 World Cups, both men and women, we've lost to the big teams, like you said. And when you lose to those big teams, it's very difficult and hard to come back from that. It's just tough, man. The batting has been a hit or a miss. We spoke about that in the last game. I mean, India still did get 274 in 50 overs. And I would say that's not a bad total. There was apart from Smriti Mandhana, Shefali Verma, Mithali Raj, and Harmanpreet, everyone else was in single digits, right? So what that push you needed to get closer to 300 didn't happen. But honestly, I would have taken 274 at the start of the second innings when South Africa came into bat. And boy, was that a close game. They won off the last ball. DJ, I know you watched it. Why don't you talk us through a little bit in that last couple of overs?
Yeah, I mean, disappointing, right? So the game started late at night. So I caught the last couple of hours of it. And there was a point at which India was looking pretty good to get this one across the line. Of course, India needed to win this because the other results had gone in a way which meant that India needed at least 1 point from this game to get into the top 4, because Australia had already qualified, South Africa had already qualified, England had made it through, and then the West Indies were sitting on 7 points. India were on 6 points. So if India won outright and they had their fate in their own hands, which is important, right? In this kind of tournament, you want to have your fate in your own hands. If India had beaten South Africa, India would have gone straight through. They may have gone through in 4th place, which in hindsight would have been a result most Indian fans would have taken, because you would have made it through to the knockout stage and you would have played Australia, who are the favourites. But you never know. Like the last time we had 171 not out from Harmanpreet to put us into the final. So things, once in the knockout stage, as Indian men's team fans well know, anything can happen, right? The top of the table can lose to the bottom of the qualifiers or whatever. But let's talk through this last fairly painful couple of overs. I think the Indian fielding let us down. We dropped catches, we missed runouts, we fumbled, we misfielded. There were lots of runs that were given away. So I think there's a deeper, larger conversation to have about fitness standards and fielding. Of course, there was some brilliant fielding as well towards the end of the game where Smriti Mandhana pulled out an absolutely stunning piece of fielding to save runs on the boundary. You had a run out from Harmanpreet Kaur, but those are the exceptions to the rule. So I felt that our girls were really lacking that athletic ability and that fitness and that fielding ability to make a difference in a close game like that. But before that, there was Rajeshwari Gaikwad. There was an over from her where she went for a lot of runs, and she's kind of India's bank, and she went for 3 boundaries but took a wicket. But it came down to the last over where India needed to defend 7 runs to make it through. They basically knocked singles until the end, and then it was 3 of 2 balls when Dupree's hit the ball up into the air. And cool as a cucumber, Harmanpreet Kaur settles underneath the ball, takes the catch, and the equation becomes 3 of 1. And I was sitting in my living room, and I just stood up. I was like, yes! And then it said, I think it kept showing like Dupree's was out, and it was 51 or 42, I think, at that stage. But she was not leaving the ground, and I was like, what is going on? Because Deepti Sharma is an off spinner, right? And then they cut to the umpire who's checking for a no ball, and to the horror of Indian fans, like, her arm is outstretched. So from going from 3 needed off 1 ball, it was not only that Deepti had overstepped, but the next ball was then a free hit. And I think if there ever was a description for a game, like going from ecstasy to agony in the matter of seconds, that was it, right? Like, we went from, Deepti Sharma went from like having almost put India through to the semis to being a little bit of a villain. And so then Shabnam Ismail was on strike. She knocked a single, and then Dupree's hit a 4 on the last ball, and it was done. I mean, even then you were still kind of hoping for a super over, but it was heartbreaking. It's such a heartbreaking way to go out of a big tournament, right? Like, I don't know. What were your feelings at that moment?
Yeah, I was like, this is a done deal. Like, I kind of put it, when I saw the catch, I put it on mute. I had to head out, so I went to get my socks and shoes, started putting it on, and I didn't realize it was a no ball, so I missed that part. And suddenly I saw the equation changed on screen, and I was like, hold on, the only way this is possible is if this is a no ball. And sure enough, that's what happened. So very disappointing, man. Like, I just couldn't believe it. Getting into the semifinals would have been a fantastic achievement. It would have been great. And then equally, when you saw the West Indies women's team celebrate, I don't know if you saw that video, but they were jumping up and down in their dressing room or in their hotel, wherever they were. And you could see the ecstasy there. But yeah, it's very sad for Indian women's cricket.
Yeah, and I mean, I saw some tweets saying, "Oh, this is why you shouldn't have a women's IPL," and all of that stuff. They have a long way to go, but to me, actually, that's the completely wrong argument and the wrong takeaway from this. In fact, this is the reason why you should have a women's IPL. This is why you should allow our women to feel the pressure more often and understand what it is like to bring home a close game. They'll understand better how to deal with that huge pressure on the world stage. Right, even now you're seeing like youngsters come out and play the men's IPL and smash it everywhere from ball 1. But like I mean, of course, the South Africans have played very well throughout the tournament. It was a tough game to be asked to win at the end. But I mean, you can see the women Big Bash League. You can see how much experience it's given the Australians. England players have their own league. They play the 100 as well. So I genuinely feel like the argument is not we should not have a women's IPL because our team is not delivered. We should have a women's IPL because it will help our team deliver on the larger stage. And the more you invest, and we've had this conversation, but the more you invest, the better it's going to be, right? I don't know. Your thoughts on this?
No, absolutely 100%. Look, nothing gives results overnight, right? Everything is a for lack of a better word, result of things happening over a long period of time. So if you think that by doing a women's IPL, the next World Cup we're going to win, it doesn't work like that. Like, we haven't won, the men's team hasn't won a World Cup in a long time. Granted, there's a lot of kind of revenue that numbers to understand before you do this, but it is a must have. Now, the scale of it, the number of teams, that can be debated, but this core group of maybe 20, 30, 40 players who are going to be representing the women's team for the next 10 years, they need to be in these situations, and you need to take it to a greater height.
Yeah, and I think there will be an increased focus on fitness and fielding as well, but that's probably part of the post-mortem that's going to come. Congratulations to the 4 teams that have made it through: Australia, South Africa, England, and the West Indies. So the World Cup will continue. Unfortunately, the Indian team will not be in there, but hopefully we can do one better next time around. It's been a disappointing campaign, I'd say, overall, but yeah, we look to the future with hope. Maybe someone like a Harman, because of course Jhulan Goswami is also retired. I think this time this was her last World Cup, so she's been a great servant for the women's game. So congratulations to her on a fantastic career. But you've got to look forward in these circumstances. I'm not sure whether Mitali's decided to hang her boots up yet, but that can't be far away, I would expect, after that last result, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, having got the painful part out of the way, let's get to the IPL 2022, or as you like to call it, IPL 2012. The Tata IPL kicked off with a repeat of the final last year.
But
Chennai Super Kings versus KKR.
But before that, some interesting stuff, right? Let's get to the games. But I mean, it's a new format. There are new teams. There are new captains. DJ, 6 out of the 10 teams have a new captain. RCB with Faf, CSK with Jaddu, which was very interesting, and I'll come to hear your thoughts about that. KKR with Shreyas Iyer, Lucknow with Rahul, who was a captain previously, Gujarat with Pandya, and Punjab Kings with Mayank. So 6 out of 10 have new captains. What thoughts on the Dhoni Jaddu move just a day or two before the IPL? I mean, this is just like how Dhoni likes to do it, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. I actually, it's been how many minutes has it been since we talked about Dhoni? It's been 14 minutes, and MS Dhoni is being mentioned for the first time.
No, I actually mentioned Dhoni's 50 in the second minute of the podcast.
Did you? Awesome, yeah. Awesome. I'm thankful to you. But yeah, it's just the way he does things, right? Like, he retired in the midst of from international Test cricket in the midst of a series in Australia, handed over the reins to Kohli. He sent us that from 1929 hours on Instagram, consider me retired. He's now 2 days before the IPL handed over the thing to captaincy to Jadeja. And I mean, you would have thought that he's already pretty much a non-playing captain now. Without the captain, what does that make you, right? Like, it just makes you non-playing, and that's not far away in the future either, I guess. But my first thought, weirdly, and I don't know whether this came into your mind, was like, this guy is a nightmare for all their marketing material, right?
Yeah.
Like, because all the promos, flyers, everything would have had like Dhoni's face on it.
You mean you've clearly spent too much time with me, Ashwin, and your sister, right? Like, if that's the first thought that came to your head, is how do you change the collateral, the marketing collateral?
Is it called collateral? Marketing collateral, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I don't know that much, but like, it's the first thing. I'm like, this guy is just messed around with some guy's situation.
No, it's fair. Look, the way I see it is, his picture is going to be on hoardings either way, right? So there's going to be no captain or non-captain written over there, and everything else is digital. But that's a very interesting thought to have when you see Dhoni no longer captain. And I mean, it's for cricket fans, it's a big one, right? Since 2007, you've basically had Dhoni and Kohli as captains in the IPL and Indian cricket, and suddenly, come the last 6 months, these two guys are just regular playing members of the teams, right? So it's very different. But not only that, DJ, I genuinely am saying this, okay, and I'm going to risk a lot of like weird stuff on Twitter, but what is the format? Like, there's 5 teams in both teams. What is the format, and how do they select the top 4?
Yeah, so we got some interesting responses to our predictions last week. And somebody asked us, do 2 teams go through from each group? Which, if you think about it, is quite a logical thing to ask. Right? Last week when we did our preview, we were like, we think these 4 teams are going to go through it. And that's how a normal group situation works. You have 2 groups, the top 2 teams go through. That's not how it works here. Which is why when we pick
also
teams,
when you have 2 groups, usually the groups play within themselves.
Exactly. But you're now playing across groups, and I think the top
in horizontal lines, I think diagonally, first versus third, second versus fourth. What's going on? No, that's a joke. You're just
great logistics.
You're playing the team that is horizontally stacked against you in the second group.
Yeah, but you play them twice. No, that's
you play them twice.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. It's like some college students just sat together and said, let's figure out how to make this complicated. But anyway, it's fine. But coming back to the point, 2 groups, you mingle the groups and you play each other. And the top 2 from each group don't go through. The top 4 teams overall go through.
With points and net run rate the same, right? So
correct.
For all the listeners, that's important. So net run rate is still important.
So it's a league, so to speak, still. Yeah. So Ashwin and I actually, and when we got that question, we're like, okay, have we got this really badly wrong? What is the deal? Ashwin and I have actually picked 4 teams to go through from Group A. But Varun has picked 2 teams from Group A and 2 teams from Group B. So I don't know whether you thought that the system was different.
I mean, I don't know what to say, but the answer is no. I just picked the 4 teams because I'll be honest, I didn't understand the format fully, so I couldn't have been so analytical.
Yeah, it's pretty funny, but yeah. So the first team. So coming back to the cricket, the first game was KKR versus CSK, and it was a repeat of last year's final. I don't know. It was pretty boring start to the IPL, Varun. I know we shouldn't be saying this. We're the guys who build excitement for the IPL and all of this stuff, and we are into it, to be honest. I mean, like, we watch every game, right? Like, this was like, is this the worst possible way to start an IPL where, like, the teams have crawled to 130? What was it yesterday?
I mean, I'll tell you one worse way to start the IPL. I saw the video of it just today, is where Brett Lee got Unmukt Chand bowled off the first ball. So there are worse ways as Delhi fans to start the IPL, but this was just very second close, right? So I mean, the Chennai Super Kings, firstly, no real surprises to their playing 11. I would say Moeen Ali did not make it. He did get his visa, which we talked about in the last episode, but still couldn't make it for the first game. So Conway came to open with Gaikwad, which was a pretty good move. Uthappa and Rayudu, familiar names. Captain Jadeja came in after that. And I mean, they were pretty much going at that less than a run a ball, right? Which is what you have seen in the past with CSK at times. And then all of a sudden, they were struggling. Okay, I mean, I'm saying all of a sudden, but they were struggling. And then you saw a Dhoni 50 after God knows felt like how many years. Dhoni comes out and hits 50 of 38, strike rate of 131, and everyone's eyes just kind of light up. The crowd goes crazy, and it was a great start from that perspective. But ultimately, DJ 131 was never going to be enough, right?
No, not with the Ayers in the opposition. Plus, I mean, it was weird. What was up with Jadeja? Why was he so jumpy? He ran, I think he ran Rayudu out.
Rayudu out, yeah, that's right.
And then he nearly ran Shivam Dubey out a couple of times. It was just like Jadeja was suddenly, he played a weird innings. I think he only got 27 or something of 28 balls, less than a run a ball. He just played a really weird... It's like the pressure of captaincy almost got to him. Do you think that? Is that a fair comment?
Yeah, I think so. Look, I mean, I think it's 2 things. One is the start was so bad, he just had to make sure he didn't give his wicket away. And then the second is that pressure of captaincy. And it was great because Dhoni kind of took that pressure off him a little bit, and Jaddu hit that 6 of the last ball. But yeah, it was going to be tough. Remember, Deepak Chahar is not there as well. Moeen Ali is not there. Faf is not there. So then they've not got their kind of full strength side from last year as well.
Well, they chose not to have some of them, like Faf, for example, who's just scored 88 of 57 in a nice little gesture to his old franchise as well as the South African team in a way.
So to everyone listening to us, we are actually recording during the RCB Punjab game. So at the end of this podcast, we'll definitely be able to give you a first innings recap of what happened, but not the second innings. And that's what DJ is referring to with Faf's 88.
Yeah, but absolutely. I mean, I am a huge MS Dhoni fan. So for me, the first innings yesterday was like vintage Dhoni. His wrist came into it. There was one shot that he hit just past between mid-wicket and long on, which is just fast hands and wrist work, which is just, it was towards the end of it, and it was just brilliant. And there was one that he hit behind square, which was like nothing was happening. The innings was going nowhere, but Dhoni didn't panic. He was not trying to hit it hard at that. He just turned it behind square and went for four.
I saw that. That was great. That and one helicopter type of a digging out of the block hole shot.
Yeah,
those two were awesome.
It was so good.
Who's this guy, Sheldon Jackson? Because I've not heard of him. And then when the teams were up, I thought he was an overseas player. I was like,
no, I think he plays for Baroda, right?
I was like, he looks very Indian.
Doesn't Sheldon Jackson play for Baroda?
No, dude, I thought he plays for Australia. Okay, so you can't ask me. I thought he plays for Brisbane, not Baroda.
No, I'm pretty sure he plays for... so he was part of the Kolkata Knight Riders team in 2017. He was also signed up by RCB a long time ago. I'm just trying to see where he plays. He's in Gujarat. Hailing from Bhavnagar in Gujarat. He played junior cricket in Mumbai. But he's been around for a while, actually. I'm pretty sure. He plays for Saurashtra. So his Ranji Trophy team is Saurashtra. So yeah. Anyway, so he was decent. He got a stumping, so he looked okay. I was surprised actually because I thought they were playing Sam Billings, and Sam Billings would have kept wicket, but he didn't. Were you surprised by that, or do they just want a local player keeping wicket?
I'm sure, because I don't know who still has to come in for KKR. I know Pat Cummins is one. Finch. So technically there's no keeper. So the last thing you want to do is start off an overseas player who's not a guaranteed person in the 11 to be keeping wickets. And I mean, Sheldon Jackson with those stumping and he's generally keeping short, he could do it, right? So I think overall good decision to get him to keep.
Yeah, and it was a pretty clinical performance from the KKR team. I mean, like Russell looked like he was bowling with some decent heat. His bouncer to Dhoni was particularly impressive first ball. But yeah, I mean, KKR just knocked it off easily, to be honest. Like my pick for the orange cap, which also, by the way, was one of the poll questions during the game. Can Venki Iyer be a contender for the orange cap? I don't know. People are really surprised by picking Venki Iyer for the orange cap. Is that such a wild pick?
I mean, it's recency bias. He's a half-season wonder, not even a full-season wonder. So he bats at the top. He's done well for like 5 out of the 7 or 7 out of the 9 games that he played. So it's not a completely left field pick, but honestly, unproven, man. Like, I mean, you would say Ruturaj Gaikwad, Devdutt Padikkal, these guys have got a lot more kind of runs behind the belt as compared to Venki Iyer. So, I mean, I think it's a great pick because he's going to open every game and you never know. But I can see why people are surprised with that pick. At the same time, I think, like you mentioned, clinical, right? KKR on paper doesn't look extremely strong when you think of Rahane, Venkatesh Iyer, Nitish Rana, and Shreyas Iyer as their top 4, followed by Billings and Jackson. Like you said, only Finch to come, and he's played for 9 IPL teams and has not had much success in the IPL. So it feels like the team doesn't look that strong on paper, but when they get going and they've got a decent, a runner ball target to chase, I think it was easy. I want to see these top 4 go after a 185, 190 kind of target, right? Because Rahane is going to be hit or miss. There's really no guarantee that he's going to give you 100.
We forgot to talk about Rahane.
Yeah, so that's why I said that at the start, right? Rahane opened the innings. I remember KKR's bench, I think Juhi Chawla's daughter came in after the auction and said, "We're very happy that we got Rahane and he's going to provide a lot of stability at the top of the order and stuff." And I was like, "What are you smoking, man? Like, didn't your friend just get caught and put in jail for some of this stuff? Like, I'm like, what are you smoking?" Anyway, but he comes out at the top of the order. It looks a bit dodgy, but I don't want to say anything, man. I don't like saying stuff about KKR.
What?
Just I've got too many friends who support them and it gets heated, and then if I'm wrong, then it really looks bad. But generally, I think I think they look solid right now. I think there'll be a team that can very comfortably chase the 150s. What I want to see is them chasing the bigger totals.
Absolutely. And I mean, Rahane looked okay. He had some pretty big shots. Looked good down the ground.
There were some great shots. Don't get me wrong. I think 3 shots were like, wow, right? But look, we have nothing against anyone on this podcast, right? If he does well in the IPL, good for him.
Yeah. Anyway, I totally forgot about that. Anyway, guys, we will be back after this break because we need to talk about Mr. Lalit Yadav and Mr. Akshar Patel getting one across the Mumbai Indians. So don't go anywhere. We will be back straight after this.
Hey everybody, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Cyrus Says, Cyrus is joined by Utsav Mamoria, host of Postcards from Nowhere, comedian Kajal Srinivasan and Antariksh. In This Cock and Bull, they examine everything from Sri Lanka cancelling exams due to paper and ink shortage to India's rank in the World Happiness Index. Let me tell you about a new show that I'm super excited about. It's called Ek Chuski Finance. It's a finance podcast made for women by financial expert Priyanka Acharya. She simplifies complex financial concepts in an easy-to-learn manner. To top it off, the show is available in 8 languages. Tune in every Tuesday for fresh episodes. On Paisa Vaisa, Anupam meets Sandeep Jethwani. Sandeep is the co-founder at Deserve. They talk about how Deserve is creating long-term portfolios for working professionals. On All Things Policy, the Takshashila folk analyze the findings of the PEW survey on gender roles in Indian society. On the Life Manifesto, Zarina reiterates how important it is for women to uplift other women and shares how they can go about doing so. And on Marathi Kirkitun, the Deshmukhs explore the sixth sense in animals and humans and why it makes them extraordinary. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. And don't forget to rate us on any of the platforms you're listening to us on. Also, remember, we're on YouTube. You can check us out on ivmpodcast.com/YouTube and get a list of all the YouTube channels we have active at this point. I'd also like to make a quick note that we're doing a small listener survey, and it would really help us if you could fill that out. You can go to ivmpodcast.com/survey. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors this week, SBI Life Insurance and India Water Portal. Thank you so much for making this possible.
Welcome back from that break, and you're still listening to the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. And we are now about to talk about the Delhi Capitals versus the Mumbai Indians. Varun, what is it with these two teams? Why does it bring out so much passion in us particularly? I mean, I've gone down the whole reverse jinx way of saying we are not even going to qualify. And honestly, today, I'm beginning to believe that that's worked, because this is not a performance that we are used to from a Delhi team. Coming back from 30 for 3 to put one across one of the favorites for the IPL crown. So I know you were saying let's not record the podcast so soon because the games have been boring. When we were 30 for 3 and 79 for 5, what was going through your head?
So I was like, this game is done. Okay. Like, I was really upset. I was trying to look at the squad. I was like, okay, this is what happened. I was out and I was following it on my phone for a little bit of time. And I looked at the bowling lineup, and I like to see, who has been used when. And this is what I saw. Okay. I saw Thakur, Khalil, Akshar, Nagarkoti, Kuldeep Yadav, and Lalit Yadav. And I was like, is this a practice match going on? Like, what is this bowling lineup? Nagarkoti has gone at 15 runs and over, Thakur at 12 runs and over, Akshar at 10. And I mean, there is no notable name here. Like, I was in shock for a while first. I had to digest. Then I went and looked at the Mumbai Indians squad, and I was like, okay, number 3 is Anmol Preet Singh, and number 4 is Tilak Verma. So I said, all right. So this is what is going to happen if you expand to 10 teams. But then I was like, hold your horses. There are many players who have not showed up yet. So Delhi still does not have Ngidi, Anrik Nokia, David Warner, Mitch Marsh. So these are 4 guys who are pretty much going to be in the squad when Delhi plays next. So overall, I think what I would say is both teams looked a little bit light to me, because even Mumbai had Tim David and Daniel Sams as their overseas players, right? So mixed kind of feelings on both sides. Anyway, getting into it, Rohit and Kishan knew they had to play big because there wasn't much batting to follow. I think
Sky, right? That was the big, that's a huge miss for them.
I mean, no Sky in this year's squad versus their last year's squad. No Quinton de Kock at the top, no Hardik Pandya, no Krunal Pandya. So big changes for Mumbai. Special call out to Kishan, man, 81 of 48 at a strike rate of 168 and played through the innings. I think really, really good. And he's going to justify that 15 point something crore price tag. So I think that was really good to see. Tilak Verma was exciting. Like for the 15 balls that he was there was like things happening on the ground when he was batting. So that was good. My Singaporean fellow kind of teammate, star, whatever you call him, Tim David actually hit a very nice
Austro-Singaporean.
Hit a nice big 6. But overall, 177 for 5. I mean, I think Mumbai would take that, especially when you look at this Delhi Capitals lineup.
Yeah, and if Tim David hit that in Singapore, it would have landed in Malaysia. But it was a pretty good shot.
Yes, nice. Well said. It would have for sure. But
Kishan was fantastic. Really enjoyed him. And Rohit, as you said, they knew they needed to go big, and that's been the big question. Can those guys go big? And Sky, massive miss for them. Pollard, nothing from him.
Yeah, and Pollard is just an integral part of the squad. He will come good when it's needed. There's no doubt. We've seen enough of the IPL and enough of Polly to know that. But 177, I thought this was Mumbai's game. When Delhi came out, Seifert got off to a great start, 4 boundaries, and I was like, wow, this guy's not even going to play the tournament long term, or as for these 14 games. But he looked really good. Shaw, you can never really tell if he looks really good or really bad, but he gets the runs somehow. So he had to play that Kishan type of innings. But Mandeep 0 off 2, Pant 1 off 2, just terrible, right? Like
talk me through Pant's innings.
No, there's
can you call it an innings?
No, you can't call it an innings. It was 2 balls. It was, I don't know what to call it, but it was it was atrocious. Again, I want to reiterate, I don't necessarily think he's a number 4 in limited overs cricket, right? So, especially...
So, where do you think he should bat?
I mean, I think he should be batting at 5 or 6, to be honest.
Really? Further down? For me, I want him to go further up.
I mean, look, they tried that experiment of opening and stuff. I don't see it, man. I don't see it. I think it works with him slightly lower down. This hanging in the middle, coming in, he came in at 30 for 2 in 3.5 overs. That just feels a little bit early for me. If you do want him that early, just send him and Shaw opening, right? But then you've got no middle order. So confusion, where should he bat? How should he play? Coming in the 4th over, coming in the 16th over, too many things going through his head. But then, Lalit Yadav comes in, gets off to a slowish start. Rovman Powell, also 0 off 2, guy who can hit huge 6s. We saw him in that India-West Indies T20 series. Huge 6s, gets out. Shardul Thakur, who... he can bat. So he did well, strike rate 200, got the momentum, got the ball rolling. And then, DJ, did you watch Lalit Yadav and Akshar Patel?
Fantastic.
Yeah,
but you almost as a Delhi fan wanted to turn your TV off by that point, right? Like, you're just we are not going to win this. I mean, we've been here so many times before. It's 5 for 72. It's 105 for 6. Shardul's gone. You still have overs, but are you going to get there? We needed to go 10 and over with Lalit Yadav, and Akshar can bat, but you don't expect those 2 guys to win you a game. The amount of confidence the Delhi team will take from this particular performance. particularly they are both domestic players, Varun. And that is huge. The options performing domestic players give you are immense. So this coming in the first game of the tournament is just incredible for
And
Delhi.
look, we saw Lalit Yadav last time as well. I personally get the feeling Ricky Ponting sees potential in this kid, right? That he keeps picking him and playing him. For me, Akshar Patel was retained and he was definitely going to play. For me now, Lalit Yadav is 100% in the team, right? That all-round skill, zero doubt, and fantastic that he's done it so early in the tournament. It almost felt like that Tewatia moment, right? Where the game was gone. And then suddenly, I had friends messaging me saying Delhi could still win this and poking me and being like, don't switch off the TV. And I was just like, man, F you guys, yeah. I can't deal with this on day 2 of the IPL. There's like 63 days to go or something. It's that ridiculously long. So I was losing it. I put my phone aside. I'm not checking. And then all of a sudden, we win this with, 7, 8 balls to spare or even more. Unreal. So very, very happy because I do feel that this Delhi team is not as strong as last year. So to get off to a winning start without the big overseas players, I think it would mean a lot to that dressing room.
And without any of the people you expect to score runs for you.
Even more so,
take wickets for you. Let's talk about that. Now, there was no Pant scoring runs. There was no Rahman Powell scoring runs. Prithvi Shaw didn't get runs. Who brought us back into that game, Varun? There was a rollicking partnership at the start. The man, and you talked a little bit about Ricky Ponting seeing potential in Lalit Yadav. But clearly, Ricky, who's captained the great Shane Warne, remember, sees potential in this left arm spinner, wrist spinner from India, went through a very tough time with the Kolkata Knight Riders, dropped from the Indian team, 3 for 18, including Rohit. I mean, what a return to the IPL for the first time in Delhi colours. Kuldeep Yadav, man of the match. How happy are you for our boy?
Yeah, I think very happy. A lot of people messaged saying also great. Even the KKR team fans said we're so happy for him because he just didn't have a spot in R11. So very happy for him. And I don't want to say too much more. I talked about how Ricky Ponting could help this guy this year. But after that the winning runs were hit, I think, by Akshar Patel. The first thing Ricky Ponting did was go to Kuldeep Yadav, and you could see him kind of patting his chest. And that's what it comes down to, man. It's not that hard. Like when you realize that there are people who need a little bit extra attention, a little bit more TLC, sometimes you just got to show it. So I think Ricky Ponting will do that because I think Kuldeep Yadav is a real talent, and a lot of people written him off, including us maybe at some point, right? So we all want to see that return story. And if Ricky Ponting and Shane Watson can really kind of boost his morale and get the momentum going, I think it could be a good year for him.
Yeah, and we're becoming a little bit of a mini Australia with our coaching staff, with Shane Watson joining as well. I quite enjoyed his interview on air today, actually. It's quite funny. Like, he was like, I didn't want to work with Hayden, so I've taken this job.
That's pretty funny.
Which is pretty funny. But yeah, great start. I'm really pleased. Akshar Patel played a blinder, though. I mean, you've got to give him credit as well. I mean, we're talking about Lalit Yadav because I think that surprised us more than Patel, but Patel actually scored much faster than Lalit Yadav.
That one over, man, Daniel Sams. I mean, great that we let go of him, but that he played like the final or something, right? I think
he did play the final, and today he hit a 6, and I was like, oh my god, has he gone to Mumbai and become a superstar? Is this happened to us yet again? Because even yesterday you saw Tushar go to Chennai and he was bowling pretty well. I was like, is this going to happen to us?
Yeah, no. I was
Daniel Sams.
So that over changed the game, man. Like I think they really took him apart, and lots to think about for Rohit because you don't have the luxury of throwing the ball to Trent Bolt. Bumrah doesn't have the air cover on the other side.
Yeah,
now.
But what happened to Boom?
I mean, off day, man.
Right?
Yeah, just an off day. I would say. So I was explaining fantasy to a friend who's playing it for the first time, and I was trying to tell him, like, your instinct is going to be to pick people like Bumrah every game. But I said, don't do it because people are so cautious against a Bumrah that he doesn't really get you those wickets. Well, not only did he not get wickets, today he actually got torn apart, and my friend still chose him. So I was like, I told you so. Like,
and you know who took wickets today from Mumbai? Basil Thumpy.
when we did the Sunil Bakwaskar Awards or something, not Sunil, just the Bakwaskar Awards, we actually had the Basil Thumpy Award.
Which was won by Basil Thumpy every year
And
for being thumped everywhere.
And he was only one nomination in that category also. But yeah, I was remembering the Basil Thumpy Award and I was like, wow. And that's the other thing about IPL. Look, you go through 3-4 seasons and you really kind of work in the background. You never know like who's going to come out big.
Like Harshal Patel, right? Like
exactly.
Patel was one of these Basil Thumpy type. He may have been a contender for the Basil Thumpy Award a few seasons ago, but he took the purple cap last year. So, behind the scenes.
And the other thing is, like I said, I think I mentioned it already, when you've got 10 teams, you've suddenly got 22 new players in the IPL. Now, even if you assume there are 8 superstar overseas players that were sitting on the bench for the last 10 years and now can play, you still have 14 new domestic names that are going to play. That's also freeing up slots in the existing teams, right? So you're suddenly going to see a huge number of players like Khalil, Basil Thumpy, and all of these guys who are going to be guaranteed playing 11 almost every game. So it's really an opportunity for them. And I think that's what the IPL is, right? Giving that opportunity to the youngsters. And I was thinking about it, almost everyone except for Vihari, who has made it to the Indian team in the last 5 years, has come through the IPL. Right. So when you think of it from that perspective, it's great. What it means as fans, it may take a year for us to adjust to some slower games, right? Where you're watching, like I said, Khalil bowling to Anmolpreet Singh, right?
Tilak Verma.
Yeah, it'll take time.
Khalil's an India player still, right? Like,
I know, but you could have Basil Thumpy, right, bowling to, well, they're in the same team. But anyway, let's move on. Let's go to the next game because I feel like we're going to get distracted by Basil.
Clearly we'll get distracted by spicy Basil. But, right. The next game was RCB versus Punjab Kings, which is ongoing, my God, RCB have put on a humongous 205 for 2. King Kohli, 41 of 29, decent return. Dinesh Karthik comes in and smashes 32 of 14. But the big story here must be Faf, right? I mean, dropped from the South Africa T20 squad, stripped of his captaincy, not retained by Chennai, comes into RCB, becomes the captain, 88, Varun. And I think he was like 1 of 6 balls. Then he was 10 of 20 balls. That acceleration, 88 of 57, that's actually faster than a lot of innings that we've seen in the IPL so far.
Yeah, and it was just once he got his eye in, it was just 6, 6, 6, 6, like one after the other and big sixes. So new look team for RCB. No Maxwell, mind you. I think he just got married and so he'll probably join in a next game or the game after. So great that Faf was able to kind of play through as long as he could, right? Because you know yourself, you know your batting, you've played the IPL so long, you've played in India so long, you back yourself to get the runs, but you need to get your eye in, guys. It's the first ball being faced by a lot of these players, and there's a long time to go. So kudos to Faf, like has to captain this side, has to lead from the front, opening the batting. I reckon he had a chat with Kohli saying, we want you back at 3, where you've scored majority of your runs over your career. So, out came Faf and Anuj Rawat. Both took some time to get going. Anuj Rawat hit a couple of nice shots, but ultimately outfoxed by Rahul Chahar. And then it was great, right? As you expect with RCB, the only thing that has been common or has stood true for RCB over the last 13 years is that Kohli and a batting superstar on the other end are going to put up a show.
From South Africa.
Yeah, from South Africa.
They've just replaced
I was going to say
AB with Faf.
I was going to say either West Indies or South Africa, but yeah, they've just got it right. And so Maxwell to follow. I think overall batting looking good. Karthik came out. I mean, I don't know if somebody whispered that it's Nidhas Trophy or something like that, because he just hit 32 or 40. He went berserk, man. 3 sixes and 3 fours. And to the end, I think Kohli didn't really score anything. He was just watching Karthik from the other end. But 205 for 2. Now, what's interesting is that I think they've got a decent bowling lineup, right? They've got Hasranga, Willie, Harshal Patel, and Mohammad Siraj, right? So 4 names which I would say are pretty good in the context of today's T20 cricket. You're probably missing one big name, like, that overseas bowler, which is Josh Hazlewood. He's not showed up yet, but overall looks like a good team. I mean, I'm backing RCB to win this.
Yeah, and they didn't even need Sherfane Rutherford to come in, or David Willard. He can hold a bat as well. Hasaranga can smash it a long way too. So yeah, at the halfway stage there, 205 for 2. We will see where that ends up. Interestingly, Raj Bava is playing this game, so I'm pretty excited about that. He didn't get a ball though, which was weird, because I mean, if you got people going at 13 runs and over, you would have thought you'd throw the ball to. But maybe Mayank is a new captain and he'll grow into that role. Pretty tough assignment. Bowling against RCB in your first assignment, but we'll see. They've got some batting firepower to come. They've got Mayank, they've got Shikhar, they've got Shah Rukh Khan as well. So we'll see whether they can make a chase out of this. But in the meantime, also the West Indies have won the Test match against England. So yeah, it doesn't look like England's going to win a series there. I think they haven't won a series there in the last 50 years, or they've won once in the last 50 years in the West Indies. In the meantime, Usman Khwaja churned some more runs out in Pakistan to give Australia a series win there, first in 24 years. Well, it was the first series in 24 years. They'd won the last series as well, 1-0 under Mark Taylor, which is like, that tells you how long it's been since they've played there. Right?
That's just wrong, man. That should have been cricket.
Yeah, and not bad for Usman Khwaja, who wasn't in the Test team a little while ago. Came and scored runs against England. Now he's scored runs against Pakistan.
And did you see the celebrations? Like, David Warner was doing a Hassan Ali celebration in his face. Like, while he was fielding at silly point. I'm going to send it to you. He did the Hassan Ali celebration, and then Swepson just turned around and did the Shaheen Afridi thing. Like, they were just, when they beat them, they just trolled the hell.
That's really mean. So, but there was a Shaheen Afridi and Warner moment. What happened there?
Yeah,
because I've seen all the memes around it, but what led up to that?
I don't know.
Why were they chest to chest and Warner looking up at his chin?
Yeah, they were not chest to chest, firstly. But
yeah, so like Warner was chest to his like Shaheen Afridi's groin.
Groin to chest. Oh man, we're gonna get into trouble for saying that. But anyway,
groin to chest.
But yeah, I don't know the background. I also saw only the memes. I only saw the memes.
Hashtag GTC. There's a podcast called TGC where
so this
GTC.
Is the GTC.
Lovely. Groin to chest. And so that's happened. But there are a couple of other things we should update on quickly before we wrap this week's episode. A couple of weeks ago, we interviewed the founder of Smart Cricket, right? And we said that if you answer a question and give us the hashtags and tag Smart Cricket, tell us the answer to the question, you could win a free BatSense. The question was, where was BatSense first used? Which ICC trophy was BatSense first used at? And the answer to the question was the ICC Champions Trophy 2017. So players in that tournament used BatSense, and we got lots of answers, lots of correct answers. So thank you all for writing in. I've done the lucky draw, and the winner is Sudeep Dwivedi. So Sudeep, welcome. Why am I saying welcome? Thank you for entering the contest, and congratulations for winning the BatSense. Please write in with your details and we'll get that sent over to you. Thank you for everyone else for participating. It was a very exciting contest. It was a very exciting chat that we had with the founder of SmartSense. Go back and listen to that. And Varun, do we have a fantasy update? Because the league is now up and running. We've got over 120 teams, I think, in the league already. Do you want to give our listeners a quick fantasy update? Because I know I've used my booster, the batting booster already. I know you've used your batting booster already. Ironically, we've got the same players using the batting booster. Both of us have Faf as our vice captain and Mayank as our captain, so we'll see how that goes.
Yes.
But what's happening on the Edges and Sledges Fantasy League, boss?
Yeah, so DJ's asked me to give the update because as of now he's ranked 5 in our Edges and Sledges league. So guys, please join and make sure that you beat him so that he doesn't gloat about this. But no, it's been good so far. Good start. 125 teams, lots of new boosters to use, and I mean at this stage you can already see people breaking away. Like there's a team called Super Hands and Wicked Sense, both are on 1900 points. Like both have crossed that.
Super Hands.
Yeah, Super Hands.
That's a great name.
Yeah, so they've both.
Any other good names on the list?
I mean, I'll have to scroll, dude. We'll have to scroll and see. Unfortunately, on this phone, I can't see anyone, but I can see a team called DHONI's 12. So maybe a fan of Sunny and Bobby. That'll be fun.
And Abhay.
And Abhay, yeah. I mean, I don't think
Dharmendra.
anyone's a fan of Abhay, but yeah.
Apne.
Today. But yeah, that's what it is. So keep, guys, we've got.
But where are
details
you
on,
and Ashwin? Come on.
I think I'm 26. I'm 26. But it's like, I mean, to ask for a fantasy update on day 2 just kind of shows you the mental state of mind you have to be in. So, guys, we will check back next week on this.
Nice. But that is the show, guys. As always, write in at One Tip One Hand. We're on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. contact@onetiponehand.com is our email address. Give us a rating. If you listen to this on Spotify, go to those 5 stars and hit the 5 stars. If you listen on Apple, go and hit 5 stars and write a review. You can say nice things about us only. Please don't write mean things about us, because then people will read it and think we're not very good. So please write nice things about us. Give us a 5-star rating, and we will see you next week, where we will be talking more IPL. And yeah, that's the show, guys. See you next week.